So we'll give it just another couple minutes for people to join. So if you don't mind just holding on. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this monthly training at Lightcast. We are now Lightcast. We do a monthly training and we have different subjects that we address. So make sure you're looking at the newsletter or reaching out to your account manager so you can sign up to these. These are all recorded. So anyone who has registered for this webinar will get that recording afterwards. Please share it with anyone who wasn't able to make it to this presentation. So also, if you have any questions, we'll be answering any questions you guys may have at the end. So go ahead and put those in the chat box. If you don't receive the newsletter or you don't know how to sign up for the newsletter, I will put that link in the chat box so you can actually sign up for that newsletter. Every month, there's some really great, helpful information in that newsletter that you're going to receive. So today, our topic of choice for this month's training is making the most out of career coach, advice from a former career service professional. I'm Erin Baird and my colleague is Michelle Rodriguez. I've been working with Lightcast for nearly 7 years. In those 7 years, I've worked with many professionals at higher ed institutions, from career services to internal researchers to transition specialists to VPs and presidents. So I love the work we do, and over the last 7 years, I have been amazed at the amount of impact we make with students across all of the institutions across the United States, the UK, and Canada. Michelle Rodriguez has recently joined our team. We are really excited that she has. We worked with her for years before she joined our team. She worked in career services for over 15 years. So with her coming to our team, I've learned a tremendous amount of things on the side of career services that I didn't know before. So I'm super excited today to do this webinar training, really focusing on her skills and how she talked to students. So Michelle, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you so much, Erin. So that was a really exciting time for me always. You know, I started out in professional development and then moved into career services, where I was able to really then expand on what I was having in those conversations about finding purpose in the work that we do, then having that conversation with students. And so you'll hear me refer today about where some of these talking points are really awesome to share with parents, to points where we can bring in staff and faculty to really make sure that our students are seeing that success after graduation.
So kind of our format today is, after working with Michelle for a couple months pretty closely, I've picked up a lot of questions that she actually really delved into with her students. So I am going to rework those and ask her so you all can learn from her as I have learned from her. So fasten your seatbelts, let's get started. The first question, I'm sure that you would, probably most common question in career services you might get, is a student comes into your office and they're like, hello, I don't know what I want to study. I don't know where I want to go. I don't know anything. I don't know what my strengths are. I just don't have any idea what to do. Can you help me?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where a majority of those conversations with students started, about, thinking that maybe college is for them, not really being sure, knowing that they're on campus there to sort of explore what's going on. And so we really, in those key points, have the opportunity to share the world with them. I felt like Career Coach did so much of the work for me. Instead of, really trying to interview the student, I always started those conversations with the career assessment. And so I always recommend, whether they're sure they're going to get started or not, that they create a profile, and I'll keep touching back on why that's valuable as you move on. So I want to get started on the assessment, and so let me refresh here. And so you'll see that there's 3 entry points for them, but for those conversations where students are having those doubts about, not really sure what program of study they want to do, or career, or how even a program or option turns into a job later. And so right away, the assessment tells us, so here at Pasadena College, they have the 6-question assessment. They don't have a 30-question assessment. option open, but you do have the 30-question assessment available. And then you have the 60-question assessment. We'll go through the 6-question assessment today. And then right away here, it tells us, don't worry if you have enough education or training to do the work, or how much money you would make doing the work, because we know these are really big challenges and sort of motivators for our students at this point. But we want them to come in answering this with sort of a clear mind, so we can help them identify what those strengths are. So I love that it asks, you know, would you like to work with hands-on objects, machines, plants, or animals, work and play outside, use your physical or athletic abilities. I'm pretty athletic. I like plants and animals, but I don't really like to play outside. I'm in South Texas. It's really hot, so I'm just going to give that a disagree. Would you like to observe, learn, analyze, evaluate, or solve problems, question and explore physical, biological, or cultural happenings? I'm pretty curious about stuff like that, so I'll agree. Would you like to express yourself through creativity, use imagination or intuition? Feel free to be inventive without limits, always. And would you like to inform, enlighten, help, teach, counsel, or cure people? It's a really big question. Would you like to use your skills with words to serve others? I love the sound of my voice, so I strongly agree. Would you like to influence, persuade, lead, or manage your personal and organizational goals? Always. And so would you like to work with facts, numbers, and details? Erin, you know how I hate math. And so follow directions to organize, plan, and complete a project task. I'm probably just going to go with a disagree here. And so before it does anything, let me get to this. And so this is, again, why I want to encourage you and your students to create a profile to log in, is because they can view those career matches, they can come back to them. We know that sometimes those conversations are happening very quickly. We want to be able to look at those in those conversations. They can save results, retake the assessment. And what I want to call to attention now, right? So we're talking about these strengths. Students aren't in good practice to talk about how they bring value to work, into teams. And so this is based on the John Holland theory that really helps to connect students to those areas where they can use their skills, their abilities, their natural ability to be problem solvers, creative thinkers. And so this is important at the beginning of those conversations, so they can see how this shows up in coursework, in projects. And then later it helps to call, sort of a call to action later when our students are looking for or navigating a job search and putting together vocabulary for resumes and things like this. So what the assessment does, and what I love so much, right? There's a tremendous amount of pressure as an educator to help us figure out what students want to do when they don't know themselves. Career Coach starts to match these areas, right, with our strengths, how they show up in the work. And then they have these areas where students can see those matches. And I just love this part, Erin, because all the time I would get a student who say, you know, well, something popped up in education and training, but I don't want to be a teacher. I wanted to do something down here. I always said, let's go into that 100% match, and then students can see those clusters within that area. So, you know, we'll touch back again, but something like biology. I know I love biology, but you know, what does that mean as far as what I'll be studying, how that shows up in the work? And so this already so much offers a student a very quick glance at the opportunities available to me.
I like that. I wish I would have had that when I was when I embarked on my college career a few years ago. So if that's a common student who comes in and doesn't know the pathway, what about a student who's like, you know what, I know I want to be a nurse, or I want to be a welder. I know what I want to do. How do I get there? What do I need to know about this process?
Yeah, you know, because those are then also some of those conversations with students who've already jumped into a key area, right? They know that mom and dad has done something. Let's go with welding. And what we have seen our students really do, or what we can help them in these conversations then to identify, is I like to say, you know, you heard me say, open up the world, help them explore careers they didn't even know existed. Because let's say if it was something like welding, they have the option to see where this specializes in other key areas. So they can see, you know, that it's not one and only, but something like $1 billion idea where you can have it when you want it, how you want it. So we can really start to see that education is foundational to so much of these opportunities. And so again, if students create that profile, they can save these, they can come back and compare, they can review some of the information from one into the next. And so again, they're specializing in one key area. Mine was computer science. I told my mom I was going to have to do computer science because I wanted to do graphic design. All she heard was that I'm going to learn how to hack satellites, and I don't do any of that. So this again helps bridge those conversations and that understanding, not just for our students who are seeing the one and only, but again, how this could lead to 3 really great things after I've made some of those initial steps to choose a career option or a specific field.
Great. So I work with a lot of colleges. I know one of the things that I've heard with colleges is how do we help our veterans? I work with a lot of veterans. They have skills, experience, etc. How do you assist them?
You know, this is really a key area that colleges want to support. And so Career Coach, again, makes it easy. I'm going to continue to say that it just does so much of the work for us. And so students, our veterans who are coming in, can select their branch. We don't have to be experts in this area either. They'll know if they were enlisted, an officer, and then they'll know what we call those mock codes. They fill this in, there's nothing I have to do. If I'm a veteran, I know what this is asking me to do. And so what is helpful in those conversations, in those meetings, is to, help students know that they don't have to start all brand new, that they can bring in some of these skills, some of these traits that related to their military experience, and now how that shows up into part of the programs, into the work that's available in the civilian world. And so it's connecting all those dots for them. And so that's really so much of what I love as well for our veterans, is that it's a challenging time. They're in almost like a brand new world leaving the service. And we don't want to challenge them with so many decisions coming into college. This makes it easy. This helps us connect them to those programs, to those opportunities. And it really helps to create that momentum as students are getting started.
Did you have any problem with those veterans helping them navigate what was the job? Did they always know their mock code, that sort of thing? So you didn't have to be an expert in that field?
No, I didn't have to be an expert in that field. There's so many there that they could, that they would know, but they would know for sure their mock code. So again, we don't have to be experts in any of that. They would know exactly what it's something they repeat almost on the daily in their military career, so they'd know that for sure.
Fantastic, thank you. So I can see how you would work with a student who maybe had no idea where they wanted to go. You could work with a student who had a very clear idea of where they wanted to go. And then you can even work with veterans within Career Coach. I think that's awesome. So now I understand that career pathway. I understand that there's all these options for maybe I want to be a welder, or maybe I want to be a data scientist, whatever. How can you explore with that student other similar careers? Because I suspect, like most of us, they don't actually know all the occupations that might align with the credentialing or the degree that they're going to get.
Right, so let's pick on education here. And what we'll see is that, of course, students may get into a specific program, a specific area, and what they can start to see here as far as those programs is let me go into something. Let's go into education. Even in the assessment, we'll see that some of these programs and that alignment, they can start to see that the college has something offered like an associate's or as part of a transfer program. We know that we don't want them to transfer right away or get to another college because they feel that that certification is only available to them. They can start to see how those are aligned here with the college. And what's really exciting about this, Erin, is that they can see all of that information in those related careers as they're part of this occupation. They can jump straight into those program requirements, right? Because we know that there are several other assessments, but what Career Coach does differently and does really well is keep students here at the college where they have those opportunities available to them. So they can go straight into those program pages to start to see how that is relevant to these related careers. And then they can see other program information within those similar careers. Because a lot of the times they'll say, well, this is kind of like I want to do, but it's got too much math in it. I got to pick something else. What might that be? And so this sort of puts that up there for them.
I love that. So basically they can say, hey, maybe I was thinking of this career pathway, and here's all these other job titles I wasn't even aware of that might have that same credential. What if
Right.
what if they come in and they're like, well, I only want to do a job in whatever career pathway I've chosen, but I don't want to study for more than 2 years, or maybe I only want to get a certification, or maybe I do want to get a professional degree. How did you broach that education, and what kind of educational requirements most people doing that occupation have?
Right. And so what we can look at very quickly with the students or go over when they get those career matches after they've taken that assessment, they can filter through those matches according to a master's degree, bachelor's, or they can say, you know what, I know that I want to go get a master's. This will narrow that down for them. So it gives us this at a glance for this specific types of careers. It gives us that top entry level education. So what's the probability of being hired for this type of work with an associate's versus a bachelor's? And then of course, this is where we know that those motivators are, where they can compare one into the next, where if they were a fitness and wellness coordinator versus an education and childcare administrator, the difference in pay that they could be making here within those regions between those degrees.
Fantastic. So I'm sure that you get this, you know, students come to see you, they have no idea. They might have an idea of 3 jobs. You know, I know what my mom does, I know what my sister does, I know what my uncle does. How does Lightcast deal with all the different occupations out there, and how do we make the students aware of all those different occupations?
So those occupations, we've scraped over 900 different occupations to map those to the programs here at the college. If this was our number one option, right? For the sake of today, let's not really so much pay attention to this, but if we were to see what those programs are available, they can see the certificate here, they can say, these are the ones that we want them. If this is where they're really making those decisions, they can save some of this information. They can view similar careers here. So we touched on it one way. This is again coming through that assessment where they can sort of see what those mappings are within this area. And this overview really does a really good job for them. Let me go back into employment just very quickly. We're going to touch on this here in just a bit, but we want students to be able to see the top titles posted. So this also again gives them an idea of the type of work and areas that they'll be looking into as they get into more of those specifics. If this was again the number one thing that they wanted to do.
That's great. So I'm sure that whether it's a new student who has no experience in education or career pathways, or if it's an adult learner who's coming back to school, you know, I just actually this winter took a class on data analysis as an adult learner. That was a really great experience for me, and a lot of us are doing that similar thing. How do I, if I'm trying to upskill or reskill or even begin to get skilled, how would I understand what my weaknesses are and where I would want to focus within your institution to make sure I turn those weaknesses around to strengths?
Right. So in this overview task, that's really in this about. So we're jumping into this career option. We can see those daily tasks, right? What we're going to be needing in the work to do this. And so students can review here if, you know, they thought, well, like me, how much math do I actually need to do the job? They're going to see these daily tasks as they relate to that regional data for that type of work. Again, we're seeing that national education attainment level, so we can see what's our probability of being hired in this type of work. Here's where we can really start to identify some of those skills as they'll need them for the work that they're doing. So maybe they have already some previous experience in XYZ. Where in this do I need to pick up? Where might I be able where might I see this in the classroom? The projects that we're putting together, or why we're doing certain projects in the classroom. How do they line up? And then make it easy for us to identify these. You know, bilingual is a big one here within our region as well, California, of course. And so students can see these soft skills, these hard skills, these are very, very important to students, especially as they begin to develop those resumes or going into that job navigation. This helps them see what those occupations, what those jobs and those opportunities are needed. So that way they go from a qualified candidate to an ideal candidate. And for our students who are starting brand new or sort of coming into the, coming back to college after some time, we want them to be able to see, again, those strengths as they relate to the work and the learning.
Fantastic. I love how those skills are those skills across the United States? Are those skills something that they can really understand? And did you talk about it as far as a job? We know community college students especially stay within the region that they work in the same region that they studied. So
Yeah.
how did you talk about those skills?
I just loved and wished so much that I had career coach when I was going to college, because of course I was searching and looking for what jobs across the world needed to do this one specific thing, and what career coach does so well, as it is aligning with the programs at the college, it's aligning with opportunity here within our region. So colleges have the opportunity to drop in a radius, a region for their service area, so students can see, again, if I know that I want to stay or if I want to go, how are the skills needed here, right? I mentioned being bilingual is a really big thing in a lot of career fields here in Hidalgo County for us. And so how do those then differ from what's needed anywhere else? These are coming straight from those occupations within our region. And so that's really important, especially for community colleges who look to serve the communities in their areas. So that's such a good question, because that was always something that came up in conversations with families about, you know, what is it that I need because I heard XYZ, or my cousin who does this over here is doing something else. And so these are relevant to this region.
Fantastic. So I have two college-age boys, one who's just embarking on his college career, one who's now entering his junior year. The questions they were asking, even entering college, was, you know, if this degree pathway takes me 4, 6, 8 years, am I going to have a job? What if I borrow $30,000, which isn't unusual in this day and age, because while they're going to school, they're not even able to work. What if I borrow $30,000? Am I going to even be able to have a job that pays that $30,000? Did you have those sorts of conversations with your students and parents?
All the time. That was, you know, question B after question. What do I do and how much is it going to pay? And so it's relevant, you know, maybe not for our freshmen or our students still in high school, but this monthly job postings, at least for those who are going to be beginning that job search or starting college, you know, to look for part-time scholarships, internships. What does the job postings for this specific type of work, what does that look like? And so it seems erratic, but it takes a little bit of study. And again, this is within this region. I love this, and I love to quiz my group. You know, why do freshmen, why do students still in high school, why do they need to see the top employers in posting for this type of work? We know our juniors and seniors need to see that, or those who are graduating. You know, this is important for those young students as well, because they can then look for those scholarships, those internships, that part-time work, start to research company values that really align with, because we know that we're at work for so long, we want to make sure that we're aligned with something that brings value and purpose into our work. And so here's another really good one, Erin, because this employment projection, mom and dad are always really worried about, you know, if this is your plan A, and that job market, this employment projection, if it doesn't look favorable for the next 10 years, and this is something that, of course, you know, is critical in some of those decisions, we want to be able to make sure that if we're promising students, you know, success after graduation, that doesn't mean they graduate. That means that they're able to find gainful employment related to the degree. And so this is where in those meetings, as a career coach or a career advisor, or any part of that decision-making process, students could then compare this to the next thing. They could go back to this employment. So if that was my plan A, this is my plan B. How does that look? It's different. It helps us make those decisions. It's helping us answer things like, is there going to be work for this type of thing? And then we talked a little bit about, you know, if I borrow this money, is that going to be there as well? We don't have to have the answers. We don't have to Google anything for our students or talk to one specific employer, but we can take the data that we're seeing here in Career Coach to tell students, you know, if you are able to leverage this experience, if you're able to market yourself with those skills, that you've shown some experience within that work, that you could come in maybe in this 25 percentile where you have some of that experience in that education versus just the 10th percentile, right? Where we have those making career changes and not having any education behind that or just the experience. This helps us create a very clear picture for our students because we don't want them to walk out of college disillusioned about what those potential wage earnings will be for them after graduation. So these two, I mean, they're all my favorite tabs, but I really so much loved sharing this part with students because they were able to compare one into the next and then really then make those decisions on their own or plan accordingly for what that job market was going to be doing within this region, or pick a plan C if they needed to as well.
Well, you and I both know we've been in the working world a while. It takes a lot to go from the 10th percentile of wage to the 50th. So
yes,
if you can bring to the table more skills, more certifications, more experience, and start in that 50th, that saves you 10 years worth of work, raises, right? That's a challenging route or road.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michelle, we understand now we have the student who doesn't know where they're going, the student who does know where they're going, a veteran potentially. They now have picked a career or a path or even a group of paths that they want to maybe explore in. They've seen how those programs align with occupations and how that is mapped so clearly. But now I have to become real. I'm a junior, I'm a senior, I have to get an internship, I have to look for a job, I have to write my first resume. How do I even do that? I'm sure that those were conversations that you had all the time. How do I write a resume? How do I actually begin to sell myself? So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, you know, as a career coach, as somebody who's working in career services, you really get to work with students on that full spectrum. And career services, you know, this careers conversation has to be part of that beginning and the end. So students are really prepared the whole way. And so we talked about how they're able to identify these daily tasks that are needed in the work. I always like to say, you know, look for these where you've done this type of work in class projects, in the work. Go and review these skills employers are looking for within this region. These have to be on the resume. Again, I talk about just being an ideal candidate, a qualified candidate versus an ideal candidate, somebody they actually want to make an offer to. So this helps us to build a resume, but if they've never been in practice of building a resume, another reason why we want our students to create a login is because we have this resume builder. Now, only students with the profile can access that resume builder. And so what I love about this resume builder is that it helps because now we know that you need a resume to even apply to college. And so students can take and build a resume here within Career Coach. It saves that. So they don't have to put it on a jump drive. They can come back and edit later if they wanted to. I really just love how much of the work it does for us here. And so I always have cashier because cashier was something that I think all of us had in our point. So I've got cashier, but let me retype this because what I want to show you is that you can view for cashier and then those specifics. So if maybe you were working in, you know, a retail versus anything, they can change the job title here. They can change within this range. Then they can take those select work tasks. This is a big part of, and it takes a lot of time. Suddenly, I don't know how to say that I was a cashier and I took money. Again, it's doing the work for us. It's doing the work for them, especially so students can sit here and pull together, I like to say the top 3 to 5 tasks that they saw within this work. So they'll add those. They can enter a custom task. Mine was always getting coffee, you know, my keyboards, you know, so they wanted to put getting coffee, they could do that. So they can add another job, they can save and close. They'll do the same for their education history, so they can include their alma mater here, and they can include the skills as they relate to this type of work, laser hair removal. But we can add more skills here within that area. So if maybe, you know, I'd like to say something like my hairdressers. I had students who were hairdressers before and now are going to be working in as sign language interpreters, right? What are the relevant skills that I can bring in from my experience into that type of work that I'm searching now or including on my resume as well? So again, it's pretty easy. This download, they can download this. And if I have administrative rights, I can review those resumes myself before they go out into live job postings with our employers and our industry partners.
You know, I love my youngest son is a dishwasher right now at a pizza shop, which is a really great job. He's going to get to college and someone's going to say, so tell me your skills. And he's going to go, I don't have any skills, but he's been a washer at a pizza shop. He's been a lifeguard for 3 years. When you put in those skills, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about it, you brushed by it a little bit, but how do the skills of lifeguarding apply to any other job? Because they can't seem to, not all of us understand those common skills that cross multiple occupations.
Right. And so we can, you know, take if, you know, we said we had some safe skills. So if we were to go into, wow, if he was going to be something like a lighting technician, this was a desired job, maybe something, we're able to see where those have, you know, something, right? So I talked about like a hairdresser or lifeguarding, right? There has to be some ability to connect warmly with the people that you're working with, right? We know we just don't go get haircuts, you know, so this is, again, relevant skills to this type of work, and then also by our experience. So if this was showing up, where do those then show up together that then can be part of the work that I aspire to do or that I have done at some point? I can show more, and those pop up on their own. It's so easy, Erin, and it was just really hard where students will say, well, I had to do a resume. I don't know how to do a resume. You know, Google is showing me 10 different types of resume. What do I put on there? This helps them not only with the development of that, but also the language, right? Because we're not in good practice, again, of understanding really the work that we're doing. And so then we fall short of really marketing ourselves to that type of work. And so Career Coach does that for us on here as well. There's a lot. I think all that experience that we have, 15 years in higher education, that's where it would be. And so they can, I'm going to try to download this because that's a big one later when we get into career services, is that we've downloaded it and now we don't have to worry about that formatting. They can bring that back into those advising sessions with us. And so this is where then we can pick up where we left off, or we can review those for our students through Career Coach as well.
That's great. I see that you can also upload an additional 6. So then I assume you would then talk to them, hey, this is a starting resume, this is a skills-based resume, but here are all the other types of resumes, and then they could actually download, or I guess upload all those resumes, and then you could maybe talk to them about applying to different occupations based on the resume.
Right, because we know that sometimes they will get into one career and then decide maybe this isn't what I want to do. You know, I want to talk to you about, I had a nursing student who graduated the nursing program, became a nurse, went to our state-of-the-art facilities, loved, you know, her education, did really well, graduated, became a nurse, and then didn't want to be a nurse anymore. And so what happened was that, you know, she needed 2 different types of resume. She still needed that nursing certification to then become a nurse educator. So we were still able to, through these similar careers here in Career Coach, help her identify those similar careers. That resume, you know, did all the work for her because she could pull in what she needed as a nurse and then pull in what she was going to be needing as an educator. It was part of that alignment that she found in those programs, in those career opportunities, where she could compare plan A to plan B, still part of her success, but this really helped her see what those could be within the region and how to fit that need for that type of work.
That's super great. So
yeah,
I think for Career Coach to be successful for students, we really need to make sure that everyone on campus actually has some idea that it exists. So they can all be on the same team, moving students forward on career pathways and how to get there. So did you ever have conversations about how to make Career Coach more available to all students within the institution? And in which areas would you have focused those on?
Well, to begin with, because so much, and so it's happening lightning fast, where we sort of are getting students back on campus. There's this orientation, this first year connection. I often found myself in a lot of conversations with brand new students to campus, just having them quickly take the assessment, only because now they're going to be in the classrooms. We want to make sure that they've not just picked, and there's nothing wrong with the general studies, but we wanted to have them be intentional and on purpose from the start. So those orientations were where I really was able to facilitate that 6-question assessment. And what was really helpful, so we had, at a community college, we had a college success course. So helping students identify the resources, really helping them plan their collegiate career. This was a really big part in those classes, even for that mid-career professional or somebody who was switching, transferring, dropping, thinking of withdrawing, to really then help them identify their strengths here within this. I always felt like this all by itself could be a really solid, class assignment, because it gives us that vocabulary again to help us understand the value in our strengths as they line up. And it takes us away from those very generic and general terms like quick thinker and fast learner. We're going to hear those a lot in the recruitment stage after or as they're getting ready to graduate. So we want to help, again, our students be in good practice of talking so well about themselves. And then this was part of Declare Your Major Days. So students who were, again, struggling or who had already chosen a career but maybe were not sure, we brought this assessment in, put together program fairs so students could, again, sort of map those out and then connect to those programs directly. So it was very helpful, not just for the students to identify those programs, but for faculty and staff to then get recruitment into those specific programs, or if there was a specific grant or opportunity to a specific demographic of students on campus. I just feel like it fits so much into a lot of conversations. I made it part of all of the work that I did in career services.
I can also see how it'd be valuable because if an instructor knew about Career Coach, because as a student, if I'm coming in, I see a syllabus and I am maybe not recognizing all the things on that syllabus, like when I'm having to do a collaborative project that actually hits the skills that employers are looking for within that degree pathway. So did you kind of talk to instructors on your campus to make sure they were aware of Career Coach?
I love it because, as we saw that you can connect to the available programs, this is also, mapping over 900 programs to that work. So students can go through these daily tasks. They're able to identify the common language in the coursework, the course descriptions, the syllabus. This is showing up here and it's showing up there as well. And then I loved not only when my students would say, oh, I didn't even know I could do that. It was when my faculty would say, oh yeah, I teach that, and that was something that would pop up here. One of course is leadership. This is something, of course, we know our industry partners are looking for, that they have, good problem solving. Here's one, right? Where can, in this objective, the student will be a creative problem solver for XYZ. This is where it shows up. This is where that alignment happens. And it just, I feel like it's merging a lot of conversations, and it's making it easier for our students to go from the classroom straight into the career, that they feel that confidence to move forward, and that, it's no longer part of that guessing. What do I do? And I have a degree. And this is where we take that accountability. So we just don't stamp and tell people, well, I've got a degree in XYZ. What does that mean? Where did that experience come in from? Because a lot of the times, even still, our students will say, well, I don't have experience, I just have that degree. Of course you have that experience. This was something that was showing up in the classroom and in the learning. It's part of that coursework in the syllabus. Here's where it is. And so students and faculty can see how that connects from one into the next.
Did you ever have a student before they met with you, did you ever introduce them to a career coach so that they would go through all these steps, and then you could look on their profile on the back end of career coach and be prepared for meeting with that student? Was that something you ever did?
It was so helpful. So I would always start my student with the assessment. I like to say if they are brand new, they're thinking of dropping, withdrawing, transferring, graduating, I felt like so much of that information on Career Coach was relevant to all of those momentum points. As an administrator, you know, if you think about career services alone, there's one career service professional for about 6,000 students on average. It's too many of them. And so what we can do when we have those appointment times is really dedicate that information to what our student is needing within that time, and also making sure that we're able to help the students stay on that path, right? Because time and money is the one thing that we don't have now until forever. I would like to say, if this is something that you need for reporting, I always needed to put that reporting together. It tells us where those active profiles were being created. I'll go into a little bit more information, but what we're asking. So if I know that I'm going to be seeing Mark this afternoon, I want to know that he's taken the assessment. I can download that assessment. I can review his resume if he's already started on that. And then if he has favored, right, this is the value of creating that profile and telling the student whatever you are excited about or think maybe you might be interested in. If you favorite that, we can go back and look at those. So when we're getting those students in those challenging conversations where they really feel like there's too much math in this class and I don't want to do it anymore, what are some things that you are really excited about? What are some things that, you feel you could really connect to, that, we can move you into, or, continue that conversation. So this, of course, really helps us identify those points and focus our time with the student, with families. Sometimes they'd come in, with families because they were not really sure. And then mom and dad would sit down and take the assessment as well. And so that was always a really big success for Career Coach and for my area as well.
That's fantastic. So there's a great question in the question box, which is, with all the occupations that are out there, how are we at Lightcast handling that mapping between all those occupations and the programs the colleges offer?
So how do we line those up?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so the way that they're lined up, and so we've curated this information from 900 different programs, map those into the Career Coach at the college, and then the college itself can sort of fine tune where those show up. And so we will take the skills, the strengths, the daily traits, how they show up in this type of work, and in those certifications here at the college. I'm just clicking, but let's find something specific, Erin. And so those are then mapped to those programs at the college, and the college, knowing what they know. So if we, like here in the state of Texas, we have articulation agreements between community colleges and the larger universities. So that way, if we know that one student wants to begin a certificate program here, that they could do that here with us. So they see those program options here. They can review those program requirements, and then also see what's available outside of those transfer degrees as well.
Fantastic. So you're taking 900 occupations, Lightcast is taking 900 occupations, and they're mapping them to programs, and then that allows that college to change those mappings if they want.
Yeah, so they can fine tune some of them. So we may get some who say, well, even with this certification student, they can still work in this specific type of industry. We want to make sure that that shows up for our students. There's a little bit of fine tuning around that, again, specific because you guys know the region well enough on, to know what's available to our students and what our students are looking when they're coming to college. Mm-hmm.
So another great question. When it looks like when the student knows the career pathway, they've created a resume, they know that they want to possibly apply to a job, is there any linkage with any live job postings or that sort of thing?
Yeah, so you have the option. Those who use Career Coach to its fullest potential, you can use this as a job board. So our industry partners, our employers can then start posting internships or part-time work, even work study positions available at the college. They can use this platform. They can use Career Coach to post what's available to them. And when they've developed that resume, when they've developed the profile, they can go straight into that job posting and apply through Career Coach or go into the job posting itself.
Someone just asked, this Career Coach looks different than the Career Coach they use. Maybe can you expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah, and so mine was purple. And so so when Career Coach becomes yours, we really want it to become yours. We want it to be the tool and the resource that is part of your college and what you do. And so this is all, you're seeing Pasadena's here, but you can change anything that has a logo. We can change the color scheme. We can include the resume builder. We can include other applications like a skills match. So for our mid-career professionals, those show up as well. And if you're not using the job board or using the job board, you can have those. I talked about how this assessment here, they had the 6 and then they had the 30. You can customize this to meet the need of you and your students as you're working through it.
That's great. What about, is there any way within Career Coach when they're linking to programs? I've seen where there's a plugin or a widget where there's different labor market data that's attached to the program on the college's side. Did you have any experience with that?
With the widgets? Not so much, not on the widgets, but what it is pulling is that if it is pulling information, we're going to see at a glance. What we'll see there is that at a glance, we'll have those median salaries, that top education entry level, and then some of those skills and traits as they relate to the program. So it's sort of an attention grabber. We want students to see that very quickly. So if they're not taking the assessment and they're going through the program pages for the college, that they could see that option. And then once they see that, it connects them straight into the Career Coach, connects them straight to that wage information and that labor market skills and daily tasks. So it works sort of as a segue to get their attention into how that program really leads to some really great success and opportunities with those career fields.
Well, that was our last question. Thank you, Michelle, so much. I lamented that had I had this prior to going to college, I would have understood maybe my pathway better. I wouldn't have fumbled around so much. When I went to college a few years ago, my parents were like, oh, go to college, find yourself, explore. I do not say that to my kids. I'm like, college is not where you find yourself or explore. That you need to have a career pathway. Even if you change that a couple times, you need to have a goal that you're trying to hit. So I love Career Coach because it really seems to link all of those questions, burning questions that I had when I was 18, 19, even, coming back later in life to go to college, it links all that together.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. I said like it does so much of that. I really did wish I had that too. I was not sure, and I changed my mind often enough that mom started saying, what are you going to be this year? Because I just was not sure. And I felt like I wanted to do 5 different things in over, a year. But there's some real value here within Career Coach is that it lets them explore. It lets them be curious. And we know that students are better learners and they experience that learning a little bit different when they're curious. And so Career Coach lets them explore, lets them be curious, but still brings them back to that end in mind. So if they're, always thinking about, well, I need a good job, whatever that is going to be, I really believe that Career Coach helps them connect to all of that, puts purpose and intention in the learning, and really gives our students a solid look for when that happens, when graduation happens, and then what. And so it offers all the support to career centers and for students who are looking to do the same. I wish I had it years ago.
So to wrap up, thanks for everyone for attending, and please share this recording. You will get, if you're registered for this webinar, you'll get a recording of it, so please share it. What I do want to remind everyone is you all have account managers. It's an amazing team of people who want to help you be successful with your students and at your institution. They can help answer big questions. They can do presentations for you. They can teach you how to do presentations. So really tap into your account manager. One of the things after 7 years, nearly 7 years at this institution, I get to work with a lot of people who are way smarter than me, and I get to continuously learn from them. And I use them all the time. And I encourage all of our clients to use their account managers as well. They love to help you be successful. So have a great day, everyone. Enjoy it wherever you are.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.